I trust that you're well and that you had an amazing day or you're having an amazing evening so far. All right, so this is basically the lesson. We're going to start with our lesson, right? And before we do, you're going to log into aplusstudents.ca. And once you've logged into aplusstudents.ca, you basically first logging in with your name, with your username as well as your password. Then we select the language arts. So we select language arts. All right, so once we have selected language arts, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to grade 8. All right, we've selected language arts, grade 8, right? Listen, we did prefixes, right? So in this lesson today, we're going to do suffixes. Suffixes. So the chapter for today is suffixes. All right, so it is suffixes, and the lessons that we are focusing on is words with full, words with less, words with able or able, right? So able and able is basically, like we would say, same difference, right? All right, so let's start. All right, so we are grade 8, chapter of suffixes, and the lessons is words with less, words with full, and words with able or able or able. Let me add able. Right. A prefix. So what is a prefix? A prefix, it's prefixes are words or letters that are added at the beginning of a word to change the meaning, right? So remember, a prefix is added at the beginning of a word. And last time in our in our in our lessons, right, mentioned suffixes, right? So suffix is a word that is at the end of the root word. And now the prefix over here in this lesson is prefixes are words or letters that are added at the beginning of a word to change the meaning thereof, right? And we say that we are going to be focusing on words with less, words with full, words with able or able. All right, so before we go on to the examples, right, we say that the words less or less, right, so less or less, depending, it means without. So the word less or less means without. All right, okay, so we say that we are doing suffixes. Sorry. And suffixes are, sorry, it is words um add at the end, not prefixes. Prefixes was the previous lesson. We are now doing suffixes. All right, so words with full, words with less, words with able or able, right? Suffix, right? Not a prefix. So prefix is a word that is added at the beginning of the root word to change its meaning. And now we are doing suffixes, which is added at the end of the word. Um, in order to also create a new word. So a suffix can be added to the end of a base word or a root word that can stand on its own, and then we can create a new word, right? And knowing the meaning of suffix can help you to determine the meaning of a word. Then we have the first word we have is full. So the first word we have is full, right? So the suffix full, F-U-L, it means having, showing, or causing, right? Having, showing, or causing, right? So here it also is that the word full means having maximum quantity of something, right? Having a lot of something. That is the word full. So if we continue, right? So suffix can be added to the end of a base word to create a new word, right? And remember we said a base word is a word that ends on its own. And knowing the meaning of a suffix can help you determine the meaning of a word. Like for example, if you are or full, it means having, showing, or causing, having a maximum of something. That is full, or the suffix full. All right, now let's quickly look at this question. It says, which is more thoughtful? Which is a more thoughtful way to make a decision? So, which is a more thoughtful way to make a decision? Is it writing the pros and the cons? So, thoughtful, right? And there we have the word thoughtful. Thought can stand on its own, but now we're adding full. So it is thoughtful, right? So it says the suffix full means having, showing, or causing, and this helps you determine that writing out the pros and cons are more thoughtful way to make a decision. So writing out the pros and cons is a more thoughtful way for you to make a decision, right? So now you'll be able to see based on the positives as well as the negatives, right? Let me make my decision based on that, right? It is a more thoughtful way to make a decision, meaning you have thought about it, you even wrote it down. All right, we're going to the next one. Going to the next one, which is considered to be respectful, right? So basically, it will be considered respectful if you are waiting your turn in line, right? So once you wait your turn in line, then it means that you are considering the next person, right? So waiting your turn in line is considered to be respectful. It's respectful, but it also means that you are respecting person or the group or whatever, right? That you burst into or that you wanted to burst in, for example. And remember the word respectful, right? It means to show respect. So if you are a respectful person, then it means that you show respect, right? Which is basically an action, showing respect. Which might be described as frightful, frightful, right? Frightful. Remember, we said full means or causing, having, showing, or causing. So what might be described as frightful? So they are mentioning a haunted house, right? So a haunted house might then be described as frightful, right? It is scary. Something that is frightful, it basically causes fear, or you get the shock of your life, or fright, right? It basically just means that you are fearing or you're scared. That is frightful. And in this case, a haunted house might be described as frightful, right? All right, let's go to the next one. Which is something more likely to be which to be prideful about. Prideful, full of pride. So, which is something more likely to be prideful about, right? It's like you're proud. You have a lot of pride, showing pride, lots of pride. So, basically, someone that is more likely to be prideful, or more likely to be prideful about an accomplishment. So if you accomplish all the things that you have set out for yourself, whether it is goals, right, accomplished, getting whatever after saving, right, that is an accomplishment, right? So it means that someone who is prideful has a lot of pride, right? And that is in a good way. When do you have to be more watchful? Watchful. Watchful, meaning that we need to be aware. So, watchful is like being aware. So, when do you have to be watchful or aware? It's another word that we can use. So, we can basically be more watchful when we are crossing the street, right? Because remember, when you're crossing the street, you look left, you look right, you look left again. So we need to be more watchful when crossing the street. And someone who is watchful is carefully watching or showing awareness, right? You are aware of what's happening around you. How does a dutiful student do his homework? A student. How does a dutiful student do his homework? So a dutiful student will do his or her homework thoroughly, right? Meaning it is your duty to complete the work, it is your duty to catch up, it's your duty to see that your homework is complete, it's your duty to see that the projects are done, right? So it means that you are showing a sense of duty. So, how does a dutiful student do his homework, right? Helps you determine that dutiful students does his homework thoroughly. All right, before we go on to the test, right? All right, so here are a few more words um, with full, right? And we said full means having maximum quantity of something, right? And beautiful, right? You're having a lot of beauty. Careful, you're very much careful. And frightful, you're really scared or chose fear of something, right? All right, so let's do a test. Back to the tutorial. Let's go to the test. Begin test. So why might a certain task be stressful? Stressful. So why might a certain task be stressful? Is it because it is urgent or because it is urgent? So a task that might be stressful because it is relaxing, so now it's stressful, or because it is urgent, so now it is stressful. All right, so which means that task might be stressful because it is urgent, right? And they want it soon or now. Which gymnast is more graceful? A gymnast that is graceful. Is it one who looks awkward while performing difficult moves, or one who looks at ease while performing difficult moves? So, which gymnast is more graceful? Is it the one who while performing difficult moves, or is it the one who looks at ease while performing difficult duties? So we will then choose the section because a gymnast who is graceful, right? It's one who looks at ease while performing difficult moves. Whose performance is more to be described as artful? Is it an amateur violinist or a professional violinist that is seen as being more art? An amateur violinist or a professional violinist? Let's choose one, right? So professional violinists will always be described as artful, right? Or skilled. How dutiful student do his homework? Is it carelessly or thoroughly? Carelessly without care, or they go over the activities or homework or tasks again. All right, so thoroughly, right? So that is how a dutiful student does his or her homework. All right, so that is the lesson on words with full. Now we're going on to the next lesson, words or less or less, right? And once again, a suffix can be added to the end of a base word to create a new word. And knowing the meaning of a suffix can help you determine the meaning of a word. Like in this case, words with less, right? So less means without, right? So it means without. So that is less. All right, if we go over to a whiteboard, right? Less. The word less means without. We say less means without, right? A bottom less, right? At the bottom, meaningless, no meaning, no sense, right? Spotless. It is clean. We don't see any dust, any dirt, nothing. Nameless. The person does not have a name. It's without a name. And listless, right? without a list. That is basically the meaning of less or less. All right. What is a restless person more likely to do? A restless person. What is a restless likely to do? All right. So basically, a restless person is more likely to wiggle around, right? Meaning that the restless person cannot sit still, needs to constantly wiggle around or fidget or do something, and for a restless person, right? Why would who would be called a tireless champion of the poor? A tireless champion of the poor. So would be called a tireless champion of the poor. So who would we call to be called a tireless champion of the poor? Basically, a tireless champion of the poor is someone who has done many things to help the poor, right? Somebody who does many things to help the poor, we then call that person a tireless champion of the poor. The tireless champion of the poor is what we call it. Why would a surface be spotless? Spotless, without dust, without dirt. It is clean. So when would a surface be spotless? It will definitely be spotless when it's just been cleaned. So when it's just been cleaned, then the place is clean, spotless. Yep. All right. Let's do the little test. So words with less, right? Or less. Which is harmless, right? Is it a wasp or butterfly? Harmless. Let's go with option two, right? So butterfly is harmless. It won't cause you any harm. What is a restless person more likely to do? Is it to wiggle around or to sit still? A restless person. A restless person cannot sit still. They constantly want to wiggle around. What would a humorless person, someone without humor, a humorless person be unlikely to appreciate? Is it a good joke or a good book? A humorless person be unlikely to appreciate. So a humorless person, oopsie. So a humorless person be unlikely to appreciate a good joke, right? And we specifically chose a good book, right? Because it means that if you do make a mistake and then the it will take you back to the tutorial lesson, right? And once it takes you to the tutorial lesson, it will basically show you how you can do it, right? Then it will give you the explanation or the description again of what the lesson is about. And then it will, for example, give you the answer. Like a humorless person, someone without humor. right? It means that they don't have a sense of humor. So a good joke is something that they would definitely appreciate, right? So as much as they don't have humor, a sense of humor, but as soon as you make a good joke, they will definitely laugh. All right, so we got that. So how would you feel after a sleepless night? So if you haven't been sleeping, right? How would you feel after a sleepless night? Would you feel well rested or would you feel exhausted a sleepless night? All right, so remember after sleepless night, it means that you did not have much sleep. So you would feel exhausted, tired. You need sleep. You want more sleep. All right, so that is words with less. And remember, we said less or less means without, right? So now going to the last one, which is words with able or able, right? And once again, a suffix can be added to the end of a base word to create a new word. And knowing the meaning of a suffix can help you determine the meaning of a word. So now we are doing the suffix able or able, and it means able to be. So it means able to, able or able to be, right? All right, so first question. If a couple refuses to sell their car for only $5,000, right? So if a couple refuses to sell their car for only $5,000, which offer might be acceptable to them? Acceptable, right? Which offer might you accept or that you might be able to accept? That's the word. Be able to accept because it says able to be. So able to be accepting, right? So which means that if, say, for example, you don't want the $5,000, then you can maybe then negotiate to say maybe you want $8,000, right? So and $8,000 would be more acceptable to them, right? Or another word is it will be more reasonable. So if a couple refuses to sell their car for only $5, we need that one, which is predictable, predictable. So we said that something that will be predictable, right, is the location of the sunrise, right? So the location of the sunrise is because the earth moves in a regular known way, right? So is the location of the sunrise because the earth moves in a regular known way. So we know where the sun will rise and we know where the sun will set, right? All right, going to the next one, which is more visible. Visible, something that can be seen. So, what is more visible? Remember, visible is something that you can see or that can be seen. Visible. If you walk into a room, what is the first thing that you maybe see? Something visible, right? Something that can be seen. So, something that is more visible is artwork that is hung over your man, right? So, artwork hung on your mantle, over your mantle, is more visible. It is something that you can see. So artwork is more visible because it is something that we can see, right? Which is more arguable, arguable, right? And something that is more arguable, right? It says that that question of whether it's fun to go out to the beach or the mountain is more arguable, because now you're arguing about going either to the beach or going to the mountain. That becomes more arguable. And remember, we said able or able means able to be, right? So something that is arguable can be argued on way or one way or the other way. And usually it is not settled immediately. Should we go to the beach or should we go to the mountain? Right? Reducible. What is reducible? All right, so reducible, right? Something that can be broken down into smaller parts is reducible, right? Something that can be broken down into smaller parts is reducible, and reducible means able to be reduced into smaller or simpler parts, right? Being able, so reducible means being able to be reduced into smaller parts or similar or simpler parts, right? That is when we basically break things or break down things or something within parts, right? So now you're making it basically reducible, something that is being broken down into smaller parts. That is reducible. So if a couple refuses to sell their car, we're already, what is the benefit of a removable sticker? A removable sticker. So the benefit of a removable sticker. Right, so the benefits of a removable sticker is that it doesn't have to stay in one place all the time, right? You can remove it, something that is removable, and it can be removed. That is basically what removable means. And which is more manageable? Manageable, right? So finishing a day's worth of homework in one evening can be seen as manageable, right? So it's that fishing a day's worth of homework in one, or finishing a day's homework in one evening is more manageable than trying to finish an entire week's work, right? So which means that one set of homeworks per day, for example. So a task that is manageable can be done or managed with some effort, right? So with any manageable, either fishing, writing, or whatever, right? It's basically just known that if a task that is manageable, it can basically be done, right? It can be managed with some effort if we basically some effort. All right, so now we're going to the test, right? And we're going to test ourselves with words with able and able. So which is more manageable? Manageable. Is it finishing a week's worth of homework in one evening or finishing a day's worth of homework in one? Something that is manageable. All right, so we chose that finishing a day's homework, right, instead of the whole entire week's backup homework. If a couple refuses to sell their car for only $5, which offer might be more acceptable to them? Is it $8,000 or $3,000. All right, so remember it is acceptable. So if a couple refuses to sell the car for only $5, which offer might be more acceptable to them? So this is where the negotiation comes in. And they think it is acceptable to maybe give $8,000. So why might you want something divisible, divisible, right? Is it so that it stays in one place or one piece and doesn't fall over? Or so that you can share it with someone else? Divisible or divisible. Why might you want something to be divisible? So that it stays in one place and doesn't fall again, or so that you can share it with someone else. All right, let's choose this one. All right, which is preventable? Preventable. Something that is preventable, a thunderstorm or a sunburn. Something that is preventable, that you can prevent. Is it a thunderstorm or sunburn? All right, so if you have sunburn, then it is definitely um preventable. Business is profitable, making money. The one that is filing or filing for bankruptcy, or the one that makes more money than it spends, right? So basically, the one who makes more money than it spends, or the one that is filing for bankruptcy. All right, let's quickly choose. Yes, so the one who makes more money than it spends, right? All right, so we basically now did the lessons on words with full, words with less, words with able, and able. So able basically like similar, right? And we did the chapter of suffixes. In our previous lesson, we worked on prefixes, right? And we said a suffix is a word that is added at the end of a base or root word, right? So which means that once we add either the FUL for full, the LESS for less, or the ABLE for able, or IBLE for another able or able, right? That is basically suffixes or words or letters that we add at the end of the root word, right? All right. So that is our chapter on suffix, our lessons, words with full, words with less, words and a bowl. So thank you very much, grade 8s, for joining our lesson or class today on suffixes, right? And we said suffixes are words that we add at the end of a root word, right? Which is a word that basically stands on its own, right? And once we add the letters or the words to a root word, then it changes the meaning of a word. All right, so once again, thank you very much, grade 8s, for joining our class today, and I really hope that you have an amazing evening further. Good night.